Hey guys, welcome back to my sewing room. I'm Kelly and you found me here on Pick and Stitches, and today we're going to be working on the latest quilt from the Fat Quarter Shop's Sew Sampler box. So let's jump right on in. Okay guys, so today we're going to be making the Dahlia Quilt pattern. This is the one that came out in the April 2025 Sew Sampler box from Fat Quarter Shop. It is such a cute block. It comes together really fast and I think you're really going to enjoy this one. I did starch all of my fabric, so you definitely have enough left over to starch. So let's jump right on in. So we have all of our pieces cut. Again, this is a very great way to use up smaller pieces of fabric. This is not going to be the 8 at a time, 4 at a time flying geese method. We're going to do this kind of the old-fashioned way. So I have opted to go with the larger pattern setting. And so I thought we would start with this kind of red and green one here on the front. So I'm going to use this kind of blueberry print to start. So I'm going to grab all of those. And then I have G and F just kind of combined because those two are the same size. I just put it in a little tray because it's so tall. I know it's going to fall off my design board as I walk around. So now what you're going to do is just take your friction pen and draw a line on each of these from one corner to the other. Now, if you have a seam guide on your machine, then you don't have to do that. But if you're a beginner, sometimes it is easier to sew on a line than to sew where you think the line should be. So it's always better to take your time, draw the line, and then use it. If you're experienced and you know what you're doing, then you don't have to do that. So let's head over to the machine. Okay, guys, I did starch all my fabrics. There was plenty of fabric to starch, not surprising because this is the Fat Quarter Shops. So I have my 6mm foot, this same thing as a 1/4 inch foot. And what I'm going to do is do 8 with one side. So I'm going to go ahead and set those aside so I don't get too far. That's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I did have one thread that pulled out of this fabric, which is going to probably make me insane, but I'm going to just roll with it. So what you'll have is 4 left that we are not doing in this group because we're going to make 4 flying geese, and then we're going to make 4 points that point in opposite directions. So this is kind of the shortcut. The directions show that you come in, you do a diagonal, you press it open, and then you do the other side, and then you move on to your other pieces. But this is just one kind of fewer steps. So once you get into a rhythm and you're making out your whole quilt, you can do these first 8 all together. So again, my 1/4 inch foot, I'm just going to sew line to line. Here, this one has the line on it, but here I have my seam guide tape, so I'll show you that on the next one. And I'm just using my 80 glide thread that I like so much. Use whatever thread you prefer. If you don't want to draw the line, you're going to line up this corner with your needle and this corner with the red line on your seam guide tape. And that's just a washi tape. I can put a link in the description for you guys. I really enjoy using it. It makes things so much faster. All right. Okay, so that's our first 8 sewn corner to corner. Now we're just going to cut these apart, make some room. And then we're going to trim it down to 1/4 inch. I like to use my rotary cutter when I have more than one of these to do at a time, but you can cut these with scissors. They're already sewn, so they're pretty forgiving. Just want to make sure that you leave roughly 1/4 of an inch. Huh. I sewed one of these the other way. Okay, guys, so this is a perfect example on this pattern. So I'm going to stop and pause here. I sewed the first one direction, and then I sewed the other 7 the other direction. Absolutely fine, because I haven't sewn the rest of these yet. So I'm going to go ahead and sew one more of this direction, and I'll meet you right back here. Okay, so I've got my 4 now. This is kind of one of those patterns, guys, where you look at it and you're like, oh yeah, one corner. Okay, fine, I can do all of them. And then actually, if you sew them different directions, they won't work. And the 3D spatial brain teaser that it is, it seems like it should, and it just doesn't. So go slow, make sure you're following the pattern, and make sure you're keeping everything oriented the same way. So when I cut this one off, just for example's sake, we will see that it is going to go the other way. Okay, so when I press this one, I'm going to set my seam and press it. I'm actually going to press this one the other way. And then I take one of these and I set my seam and I press it together. They're going to line up. And so that's why you have to be careful when you're doing this. So you want the first 8 to all be one way. Just pick a way and stay that way. Don't do what Kelly did. That's why you guys watch me, right? To see what not to do. Okay. So I'm going to set this one aside. I'm going to go ahead and press the rest of these. All right. So these are going to get pressed towards the white. Maybe. Okay, now these 4 are done. So I'm going to go ahead and set those over here. I'll put them under a clapper off camera. These 4 are going to become our flying geese. So we're going to go ahead and press them open, and then we're going to sew onto the other side. So now what we're going to do is take our squares and we're going to come on the other side and sew down. So if you look at this one is already sewn like that. So this is going to be one of my 4 in the next patch. We're going to have 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 that will just have one side. I'll point the right way here in a second. And then we'll have 4 that we're making into these flying geese. So let's head over to the machine. Okay, so I really hope that did kind of illustrate why it really always feels to me like you should be able to just sew them all out, and they just don't work. So now we're going to get our other piece. We're going to do the flying geese first, and I'm going to sew corner to corner. Okay, and as I'm pushing this through the machine, you can see that it's kind of angled with the higher part on my right-hand side and the lower part on my left-hand side. So when I go to send the next piece through, that should be the corner that I'm doing. The higher on this corner and the lower down here on my left-hand side. So this one's already sewn. So now I'm just going to do that with these remaining 3. So again, I want to make sure that I'm still kicked this way, because if I switched it and sewed from the middle out to this corner, it wouldn't give me the right angle. Okay. Okay, let's go press. Okay, so we'll snip these apart. And the only other place I'm really going to deviate from the pattern is these are the geese you press to the color side, or excuse me, away from the middle. That is the worst pressing job I think I've ever done. I'll fix that in a minute. So then we'll take these and trim them down. Can't. It's just a mess. Okay, so my first side, I pressed everything towards the white, and on my flying geese, I pressed towards the white. Now I'm going to press the other side of my flying geese towards the white. And then on my other point, I am going to cheat and I'm going to press towards the red so that my seams will nest. I've really been enjoying this row into iron, and I want to see if being lazy and not pressing open is doable, or if I have to get off my high horse and press more things open. Okay. So now we're going to kind of build out the center of our little shape here. Make sure that's not too hot. Okay, so we have our two bottom pieces. Let's get these all lined up together so they'll be easier. So our two bottom pieces are going to go like this. So we'll just take these over to the machine and zip down all. We're going to sew the two white sections together. And then for our top row, we've got our flying goose up top. And then we've got two of that same size square, this G and F. So we're going to put one on each side. So we're going to make those 3 rows together real quick. So I am going to switch back over to my seam guided foot. And I'll take my squares, even though I already had some over here, and we're just going to sew on each side. Okay, break our thread, pull it back through, do the other side. Seems like a dance, huh? Sounds like it to me. Okay, we'll send that back to our pressing station. And now we're going to sew our two bottom sections together. Now, because we pressed one towards the white and one towards the red, they are going to nest. So if you didn't press that way, you're going to have to line up your seams the old-fashioned way. If you've pressed them open, you might want to poke a pin if they don't feel like they're lining up. But I can wiggle my fingers on that, and I can feel that that seam is totally aligned from the top to the bottom. Okay, so now we're just going to set our seams. I'm going to be super lazy and just press these towards the outside again. If you are a press it open kind of person, please do it. But there's only 3 layers of fabric coming together right there, and I guess it's 4. I guess it's 4. I'm okay with that. Because I free motion quilt all of my quilts on my long arm, I can kind of get away with it because I am going so slow when I hit big seams. If you're sending your stuff off to the long arm quilter or you have an automated system, you may not like to have all those layers, but I can just slow down as I come to those intersections and everything is easy. So that's why I'm kind of hoping that this works out. Okay, so then we have our other pattern. We'll set that seam, press it open. And that's pretty bulky. Nah, it's not too bad. I was going to say we might press that open, but I don't think I'm gonna. Watch me break a needle on this quilt, you guys. I'm jinxing myself here. Okay. So now we've got those pieces ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and cut them apart and get us a design board. Cut those apart. Okay. So for this one, let's see, what did they use? Let's see if we like that. We can do that. Okay. So one of the options that I wanted to show you guys, this really felt like it came together very fast. And I think it was a lot of fun. One of the options that I was thinking about trying is instead of doing this main block as the square, subbing that out for a 4, I think these are the, it's the 4-inch square and a square. It's the 4.5-inch unfinished square and a square. I'll put a link in the description for you guys. I really do appreciate it if you do shop with Fat Quarter Shop, if you use my links, because that lets them know that I'm sending people their way. But I do like these foundation paper pieces for the square and a square. It just makes it kind of brainless. brainless. Okay, so now we're going to start to put together the main part of our block. So I'm getting ahead of myself. First, we've got to put these two together. So I'm going to sew these two together on all 4. Let's head back to the machine. I'm excited, you guys. This is coming together too fast. Okay, so we've got ours all set up and ready to go. Here, I do have a seam, but where I'm matching it with the red, there is no seam. So what I'm going to do is want to make sure that these align. So you've got one side that's going to be nesting. So make sure that's well nested. And then we'll send it through and line up the other side. And again, if you followed the pressing instructions in the pattern, that will not nest. So don't think you're crazy. You're not. Let's see how we did. Yep, I can live with that. So we'll move on to the other 3. Again, I'm going to pick the side that wants to nest. It's not that one. It's that one. So I'll make sure that it is nested. And then I want to send that through the machine first. Sorry, I know I twisted that like 4 or 5 times. So find your seam, if you press my way, that nests, and then get so that you're sending that one through first. Okay, since there are quite a few seams coming together, I am going to press this one seam here down the middle open. Okay, so I am going to use my rolling bar to press this seam open. And we'll do this for all 4 pieces. I'm going to set it over here on my big ironing board and just set it under a clapper. Okay, so now we are ready to lay out our block. I'll grab a design board. So now we're ready for the design board. Now that I'm not jumping ahead of myself, we're going to take our 4 petal. The white is going to go towards the outside on all 4 sides. And then we're going to build this up with a couple other pieces. Okay. So the next thing that we're going to do is build this outer border around our centerpiece. And that is where, if you wanted to, you could switch and try this with a 4 and a 4. And so I may do that on a block or 2 and show it to you guys at the end of the video. But for this one, we're just going to use our 2 rectangles. We've got rectangle E and rectangle D. So first we'll sew on our 2 sides of E. It's harder to separate than it should have been. So the longer side we're going to save till last. First, we're going to do these 2 shorter sides. So let's head over to the machine. And this is wide enough. We can do both sides at the same time. So we're just going to line it up. Flip it over, do the other side, and then we'll go press them at the same time. Okay, so we'll just set our seam. I'm going to press towards the green because it is my darker color. All right, we'll grab our other 2 sides and get them stitched on. And once you've made your whole quilt, you can absolutely do all of your center blocks at the same time. Just roll through and chain piece so that way you're getting, a little bit more efficiency there. Okay, I felt that roll over. I felt you. All right. So now we can plop it right down in the center of our block, and then we're going to take our piece C's. We're going to put 4 on the outside corners. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're just going to take this over to the machine. We're going to sew those 3 together, these 3 together, and these 3 together. Okay, so we'll just pin these together if you want to, or align them, sew them on. I'm just going to go down 1 set of seams and keep it all chain pieced together. Now here, I do want to pay attention to where my corners are coming together. So just make sure you're not cutting that point off. And if you need to poke a pin to see that, that's totally fine. And then our bottom row. Okay, we'll swing it around and do the other side. Make sure your red is touching. That would be easy to get confused. And we'll look for that point again. And our final blank square. Okay, the theme of today is nesting seams. So I am going to want these to nest. Because this is a bulky corner and on the inside it's not a bulky corner, I'm actually going to press this one towards the middle, and I'm going to press these whites toward the outside. I think I just steamed my whole stack of papers over there. Kind of awesome. I have these sitting just off camera. I think I just steamed the whole stack. Let's see. So again, I've got these outside rows pressed towards the outside. I'm going to press this middle section towards the middle. And then we're ready to sew the last seam on this block. Well, the last 2 seams. Okay, let's head back over to the machine and we'll sew these last 2 seams and we'll have our finished block. So now that will nest nicely. And off we go. Next seam to nest. And if you need to pin here, please, please pin. I'm going to look out for this point. Uh-oh, that thread came out. Okay, if you guys have been watching me for a while, you know that I don't really like to use the threader that is on this machine because it bugs me. So I bought this little tool. I think I got it from Temu. I haven't even used it but twice. I had it too low. That could be the problem. That worked pretty well. Okay. So that's the second time I've used that. We'll see if it gets any smoother. I don't typically mind just threading it, but I don't have my glasses on today. So, you know, problems. Just try that again. Make sure that's still nested. Okay, so now we'll go press that open. Okay, so when I first saw this pattern, I really thought this quilt was going to take a lot longer than it actually does. It comes together pretty fast. You know, the flying geese take a minute, but it's not bad. And, oops, I don't want to press that way. I'm going to have to do it somewhere. I am just going to press to the outside, guys. And I'm going to use a bunch of steam. All right, so I need to trim up the outer edges on this block, but I think it came together pretty nicely. And again, if you wanted to switch out that center for a square and a square, I think that would be super cute. And I think this is going to be a pretty fast quilt for how detailed it looks. It did take a fair amount of time to cut, but it was all pretty much the same size-ish. I mean, the size was really repetitive. And then once you start sewing, it actually comes together really fast. The corners, I think, look really great. The points, I think, work out pretty easily without too much fiddling in. I mean, I'm pretty pleased with this whole project. Okay, guys, so as you can see, I did try several with a square and a square in the center. I did about half of them if you want to look on the wall behind me. I kind of like the way it turned out. I feel like some of them in photographs look kind of blocky when they have this full blocky center, but I think it looks better in person when they're the block. So on camera, I like this one better, and in person, I think I like the squares better. Also, if you decided to go with the larger quilt pattern, there were 2 prints that were like not a white on white, but they were white with other things. And so you can see this center block here. I did the white blooms, flower petals, and the red center just like they had on the back of our pattern. I honestly don't care for it. So after I sewed that one out, I went through and I pulled 2 more fat quarters from the Moda Fat Quarter Club, and I made this one and this one. So those 2, you're not going to have as part of your kit. If you're looking for those 2, those were the ones I added so that I would have enough fabric to kind of skip over that white, not white on white, the white prints. There's 2. There's like they're really cute, but I just don't think it's striking enough to have those as used in our flowers. But you can see that outside row is all my square and a square. I think I'm just going to mix and match on this whole quilt and just kind of make it work. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this tutorial. If you do like my tutorials or any of my other unboxings, please do hit that like and subscribe button. It helps me out a ton. And until then, I will see you guys next time.